notre côté aussi, peut-être maintenant, notre ambassadeur et notre contingent n'étant plus otages au Niger, en quelque sorte, dans cette position de fort Alamo, nous aurons peut-être plus de latitude pour monter des opérations de déstabilisation, cette fois-ci plus clandestines.
What? And he's saying this on national television? This guy is a former French intelligence officer. He worked for an agency that's like the CIA in France. So for him to say this on TV shows you the thinking, the arrogance in France, and the contempt with which they view Africans. How can he say that now they've withdrawn their ambassador from Niger and in the process of withdrawing all their military, that they should now plan a clandestine operation in Niger in order to destabilize them? And what type of destabilization is he talking about? Is it the type they used in Burkina Faso in the 80s against Thomas Sankara? Or is it the one they used in Ivory Coast against Laurent Gbagbo? Although it doesn't seem likely anymore in Niger because ECOWAS forces will never invade Niger. Invasion of Niger is very unpopular across West Africa. But France, after being humiliated out of Niger, is now thinking that they can still destabilize the country by using all sorts of means. This is very condemnable. This is why there is widespread resentment against France. They don't even hide it anymore. They don't hide the fact that their economy cannot survive without depending on African countries. And they still think that we are in the 20th century, that Niger is part of their territory. No, Niger is a sovereign country and they successfully evicted you from their country. So this is their strategy. If they can't benefit from a country, they find ways to destabilize the country, even leading to a war, so that they can come in under any guise and start benefiting again. All this they are saying lends credence to what people have been saying in Francophone countries, that France supports weak civilian governments in order to gain access to their country, gain access to natural resources and overbearing influence over the country. This is why people should understand that the first problem in Africa is corruption. Without corruption, foreigners will now have overbearing influence over Africans. So solve corruption and you end up solving all the problems. Because if a politician is not corrupt, he will not stand by and give foreigners access to your natural resources because they are just giving him some percentage, while the national interest is not protected. So corrupt politicians are actually part of the neo-colonialism because they help foreigners to gain access to their country's natural resources, and in order to maintain the status quo, they make sure that their military remains weak. And if the military is weak, they cannot handle security challenges, which will lead the foreigners to say, hey, you can't handle insurgency, let's come in and help you fight them. The same corrupt politicians will quickly sign an agreement and offer them a lease to come and build a military base in their country. This is to maintain the status quo. As far as the politician is getting his own cut out of all the deals they are doing in the country, there's no problem. But how about equipping your own military to handle security issues in your own country? No serious country should outsource security issues to another country. So you can understand how corruption deals with African countries. If foreigners don't have local collaborators, they cannot function and have the overbearing influence on any country. Look at the recent statement from the government of Cameroon. They said that they will now arrest and prosecute anyone who speculates on the possibility of a military coup happening in Cameroon. So you can understand how far they are willing to go. They can even go to the level of suppressing free speech in order to maintain the status quo. They are not even targeting the military men that will conduct the coup, if any will happen in the future. So this is where the problem lies. Once a politician starts giving the impression that he is the only person that has the solution to the country's problems, as such, he will extend his tenure in order to continue in office. No one man is indispensable. No one man is all-knowing. If anything happens to one man, the country will not fold up and vanish. They won't stop existing. Their life will continue. They will elect a new president and continue. Some people are of the opinion that having one sit-tight leader in power for a very long time, that it brings stability to the country. That's not correct. It's actually the opposite. The very fact that the opposition in his country knows that he will leave power after his tenure ends will make them not to find other means to remove him from power. Yes, you have a bad leader in office, despite not doing anything to change the fortunes of the country, but the opposition will say, hey, we'll wait for him, after all it remains only 2 years, we'll wait for him and we'll vote him out. They will even be campaigning because they know that he will leave power. But when the person is a sit-tight leader that refuses to leave, that is when you see armed struggles, you see all sorts of things, you see military coups, you see attempts to remove him from power. And some people are of the habit of saying that this leader is doing fine, let him continue. Why should he continue? Why shouldn't he observe the rules of engagement, the rules in a democracy? Why should it be different for one person? This is the problem. We always see power as being personal, that it should be about the person. No, it should be about the national interest. Peaceful transfer of power from one person to another actually promotes competition because all parties will be striving to do better than the other. If the first president built many bridges, airports, and other infrastructure, another one will say, no, I want to concentrate on education. Let our people be educated. It creates competition. Unlike when it is one man, all his ideas, everything he does, there's no competition, no one can challenge him. He is there alone, doing what he likes. You don't see much progress in such countries. Coming back to what the former French intelligence officer said that France should do in Niger, the Nigerian authorities should know that they must secure their country. It is not about getting power. What counts is what you do with that power when you have it. Yes, despite being a transition government, they must still provide for the basic needs of Nigerians. If a man can't meet up his basic needs, he might resort to desperate measures in order to survive. No foreign power can sabotage or destabilize your country without the active participation or collaboration of a citizen. The military authorities have done well so far by using non-violent means against France. The blockade of their embassy and the military base forced them to evacuate and leave their country because they could no longer eat. French people holed up in their embassy were only surviving on military rations, and those rations must have been running low for France to finally decide to evacuate their embassy and their military personnel. Yes, they did well. They didn't fall into the French trap because if they used violence in any manner, France would have capitalized and invaded Niger. In fact, it might have caused a serious harm to the country. So they now should concentrate on making sure that they secure their country. That's the most important thing. Insecurity has been on the rise in many Sahel countries where we've had military coups of recent, which wasn't the case when the French military were still in these countries. Even in Mali, when the United Nations force was still there, the insecurity wasn't this bad. So now they've taken over their countries, they've expelled them, they should make sure they play their roles very well. They should secure their country. They should give their all, whatever it takes, to secure them. Because you can never say maybe the destabilization might be through the insurgents. So this time they can no longer blame others for their problems, they should deal with it by themselves. Get help from any allied country to supply you military equipment in order to do the job by yourself. Yes, these are some of Emmanuel Macron's talking points, that African countries can't do it themselves. That's why they intervene. That's why they come here and build military bases in order to protect their interest. So, you don't want that to be true. You have to do the job by yourselves, protect your country, make sure there is security, because investment and industry can't thrive in an atmosphere of insecurity. Thanks for watching.